Hey there everyone, welcome to another great edition of Mogul Live. I'm James Pratt. Thrilled to have you here and thrilled to have David Cormican again in the Mogul Live chat talking to us about a very special upcoming panel that Mogul's involved in. It involves Canadian cinema, Netflix, and also for any of the stars holders or anyone out there that wants to ask any questions as we go just about where Mogul's up to. Very, very exciting plans for 2022 and also just having a chat with David, Emmy nominated, very, very well-known TV and film producer. And this is your chance to get up close and personal with David. Wealth of people coming into the chat, Ada, Nick, I saw Jean, Timothy, I can see David's in the chat already, which is just fantastic as well. David's already here. Hello Stars, Turkish community. Great to see there's so many different comments coming through as well. Like I said, guys, you can ask anything you like. What we really want to talk about is we want to talk about the very exciting panel that Mogul's involved in coming up. And also David is actually going to be one of the speakers on that panel. So we want to give you guys a quick update on that. And also just a quick update on how Mogul's going as well. So first of all, let's see if we can get David into the chat now. Let's just connect him in. If we can sort of see... David, I know you're in the chat here somewhere. let me see, how do we go? Request to join. Let's see. David, we just need you to request to join the chat if you can. Just request to join the chat. That would be the best way to do it. I love you, Mogul Production. Thanks, Amit. Great to see you there. Mogul Production stars, Mogul stars. Hey, David, got you here. Let me see if I can... let's see how we can get David into the chat. David, we just need you to request... We just need you to request to jump the chat. I think I've got you here. Fantastic. Should be pretty painless, everyone. I'm pretty sure we're going to get this quick and easy. Connecting with David. David, that was really easy. Good to see you.
Absolutely.
I wanted to sort of give the audience just a quick kind of nudge about, we want to talk a little bit about this really exciting panel that's coming up. But just before we go into that, again, you know, guys, we really love to have David in the chat here so you can ask him any questions. Just how's your year started and what are you kind of working and doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. First off, thank you for having me. It's always great to be back on here. I feel like it's sort of like hosting an SNL, right? I've been on a couple times now, which is always nice to give some little sneak peeks and previews of what's going on in the Stars and Mogul universe. You know, 2022 has been obviously a bit of a weird year for some people, still, you know, dealing with the effects of the pandemic and you know, sheltering in place still and all that sort of stuff. So there's been a lot of hardship for sure for a lot of people, but obviously, you know, I think that this year is looking really bright and positive for Mogul and Stars and everything that's going on there. I know there's a lot of stuff planned for the rollout for the rest of this year, and you've seen some of it already, and some of it's...
I think your call's just come in, David.
Sure. No, sorry about
we
that.
got you
It was
back.
actually, I set a limit every day for my social media time, and I hit my capacity for the day, so I had to hit ignore. I apologize for that. This is a good reason to ignore your limit for the day.
Yeah, this is a nice way out.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I was saying, there's lots on the roadmap for this year. And speaking of that roadmap, one of the things that we're very fortunate to be a part of, we were invited to be one of the presenters for Primetime, which is a fairly well-attended event here in Canada with a lot of the government regulators and every single producer in the country who's making, you know, everything from film to TV series to documentary and in between, plus all of the financiers and the broadcasters, and get a lot of... It sort of sets the stage for the year in terms of what the topics of conversation are going to be because of where it falls within the calendar. And so through, you know, us being at Primetime, we're really delighted to be talking about NFTs in the entertainment marketplace and see how that conversation sort of evolves over 2022. You know, I think last year NFTs were a bit of a buzzword, and a lot of people were writing them off as a trend or a scam or a fad, or and I think 2022 is here to prove to everyone that NFTs are not just a trend; they are the next level in entertainment, in you know, brand marketing, in audience and community engagement, and ultimately, you know, deepening the experience of any piece of content that you are producing or creating going forward.
Yeah, and I agree, and it's been interesting because I mean, over, like you said, 2020 and 2021, 2 different years, but you know, the reaction from people when you say NFT, let's say 2 years ago to now, is so different already. I mean, people, especially in the entertainment industry, they want to be able to incorporate that into their film. 2 years ago, they were almost like, yeah, I don't know what that is. It doesn't really affect me. And now people are realizing that, and again, what Mogul does, we've got the NFT marketplace. We've had a range of NFT auctions. I think the most popular one was the Rob Pryor 182,500 for the Wolf of Wall Street NFT that we sold, and that was a world record too. But kind of circling back to this panel, first of all, who else is speaking on the panel, and just what are the time frames? When is it, and how can people get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So the panel, it's officially called NFTs for Entertainment: How a Smart NFT Strategy Can Drive Buzz and Revenue, which I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but I promise we'll try and pack it into bite-sized sound bites. But joining me is award-winning actor and producer Lyriq Bent. We also have Gorav Seth, who's the co-chair of the film committee for Mogul. He's also, a bit of a guru in the financial industry as well. So really glad to have Gorav's point of view on all of this. And then Mike Consentino is moderating the panel, and he's the president of Cause Media, formerly with Bell Media, which is a massive, for those of you who are not Canadians, it's a massive wireless telecom cable provider and internet service provider in Canada that also broadcasts. So, Mike's got a really interesting eye on the landscape, and I think he asked some really targeted questions that everyone's going to really want to hear the answers to.
That's fantastic. I mean, I'm already looking at the comments down below. I think our community members are reacting well to that panel.
Oh, great! And just in case you're interested, I think it's free for everyone to watch. It's tomorrow. It starts streaming at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific. And if you go to cmpa.ca/prime-time, and that's a bit of a mouthful, but if you go to cmpa.ca, you'll find details there. And also, I think on our Mogul channels, we'll be putting out a direct link, so that everyone can watch that panel as well.
That's fantastic. And I've put in the chat, obviously, just ahead of this, Curly Wisdom, can you please tell us what's going on with House of Night? We'll circle back to that. Great question. Just quickly, I did put in the chat, obviously, Mogul Netflix panel. The reason I put that in is just, again, David, you might be able to lend a little bit of weight to just this particular event. Some of the other brands or, I guess, established companies that will also be participating in this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Primetime started years ago by the CMPA, which is the Canadian Media Producers Association, and they are the equivalent of the PGA in the US, or the Producers Guild in the UK. And it's a collective body of the professional producers across this country. And they started this conference to really sort of start engaging in a yearly dialogue with the regulators, and that's it, as it relates to programming and content requirements and all that sort of the nitty gritty of the regulations that go on behind the scenes that allow us to have some of those funding mechanisms or even the right to broadcast over the airwaves. And it's grown into a marketplace now where producers are able to pitch with broadcasters. There are, a myriad of panels that are exploring the real hot button topics, not just on a Canadian level, but on an international level, because content is now a global game. And so it's because I sort of tapped on this earlier, but because of its placement in the calendar as a conference and a market, it really actually ends up being one of those markets that is the almost like the bellwether for the year. It sets the agenda in terms of what are those conversations that are going to happen. And so now you've got not just the Canadians that are participating, but you've got Netflix, who is a key sponsor of the program. Roku, Apple, Amazon, all of these companies are now attending, and unfortunately, it's a little difficult this year because again, it's gone back to a virtual panel or a virtual conference. But normally, it's an in-person event with hundreds of people sort of colliding into each other, and it's just a big confluence of ideas and content, and really sort of driving the evolution of the industry to the next level, and again, driving that conversation for the year.
That's fantastic. I mean, I think that's a really good indication for anyone that's just joined us. David Cormican talking about this panel and the weight that the panel is obviously carrying, and great that Mogul's able to shed the light on obviously NFTs and this direction that's going into the film industry. David, while we have you for another 10 minutes or so, just 5 quick rapid fire questions.
Sure.
That I'd love to sort of throw through. Sienna, thank you, COVID. You ruined cons. I'm not sure. I think you guys are having a private conversation between you and Carly. But quick rapid fire questions just for those as well. And for anyone in the chat too, like I mentioned, we can circle back to anything, want to know more details about this primetime event, Moguls, Mogies, the Stars event. Obviously, we've had some really exciting developments with Mogul within the community too. So please jump in any questions as we go. Quickly, David, 2022 within the film space, what's your prediction?
Oh my gosh. I mean, what's really interesting right now is, the opportunity that NFTs provide, especially for independent producers who maybe aren't a part of that studio model, is another avenue to exploit your film And I use exploit in the best sense of it. It's to monetize, to capture revenue, to provide additional areas of engagement for your audience that initially and historically have not been available to filmmakers. So I think as 2022 goes forward, you're going to see a lot more people jumping into this space. So I think right now there's a huge opportunity for any producer or any show or film that's out there to really sort of take advantage of NFTs right now and sort of get out ahead of the rest of the noise before it discovers that these aren't just a fad and they're here to stay.
Yeah, and it's one of those things excuse me, I look at it like the internet, where I think for a long time people didn't want to take their business online. They just pushed and pushed and pushed and said, no, it's the old school way. And now it's just about every business, 99% of it is run at some point through marketing or through the actual internet. And I feel with NFTs especially, it's that thing where it's like, maybe it doesn't work for you right now, but if you actually explore it onto your film, you can see that it does work.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I mean, maybe this is not a prediction, but I think it's going to be a bit of an evolution, just sort of tweaking on the comment that was made earlier that about COVID ruining conventions. And on the one hand, yeah, it has, in terms of the immediacy of the in-person engagement and the bonds and affinities that could be formed during those interactions. But I think the one thing that is kind of interesting is that panel that we're on tomorrow, at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific.
Right, not great plug, David.
Like that
great
panel
plug.
is now available to everyone to watch, right? As opposed to before, you would have to have paid your registration, and there's $1,500 that not everyone necessarily has. So now there is that's kind of interesting that which I think everyone in the crypto and the blockchain world would really appreciate, that decentralization of that, and the availability and the access to these conversations and to this information. So that is kind of an interesting evolution of this. Also, when you start thinking about the metaverse and NFTs and people's avatars and what might be possible within a metaverse for a conference potentially, I think there could be some benefits to that going forward. Although I don't know that it will necessarily ever fully replace the advantages of an in-person event, but there are definitely some interesting opportunities that could be explored, and I think are presently being explored by a few entities.
Yeah. No, well, I think you've covered it, and I think there's some great questions. I'm just kind of keep up with all these questions coming through. So Sienna did a great question. I'm just going to quickly stroll up. Sienna, you wrote, what is your hope for 2022 in the industry? I think you might be lending a little bit outside of NFTs with that too. What's your hope for 2022, David, for the film industry?
Well, I think a lot of people have spent the last 2 years on the sidelines, and my hope is that those people who've been really patient and trying to persevere, that they get a chance for their projects to get that last piece of financing or that first piece of financing that they were looking for, and a chance for them to get back into production. Because I think that's what a lot of people, my friends and colleagues alike, have been sort of wanting, and those that have been in production, nonstop during all of this, trying to figure it out and dealing with the PPE and the holding your breath, hoping there's never a COVID scare. I hope that they get a bit of a break and a chance to sort of recuperate and spend some time with their families.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I couldn't have said that any better, basically. Great answer, David. I love it. Mustafa Breath, and I'm again sorry if I've got that wrong, but you've written, what main points could I share with producers on the benefits of NFTs? Great question.
Well, I mean, I think the tricky thing about NFTs is that the sky really is the limit. So it's as creative as you can get with your project and what level of access or engagement you're looking to create for your fan base. That's the only limitation you really have. The coding or the contracting behind the scenes is actually quite simple. And I think the biggest opportunity for these NFTs right now is that you can, this is all about really nurturing your fan base and starting early and letting them into the process. And, I think the initial use of NFTs has been as collectible art, which is interesting. But I think there's far greater applications for it that go beyond that, where now you're about providing additional benefits for people that actually hold those NFTs. So while that NFT could be a piece of art on its own, there could be limited, benefits or exponential benefits depending on which level of an NFT you have or what randomized NFT you got. So now you can start creating tiered or bespoke levels of opportunity and access to everyone. So I think really that's the key thing about NFTs, and for producers to start wrapping your head around, or content creators, is what benefits can you provide to your community? And again, like the more niche and the more targeted and specific you are, I think the more successful your campaign is going to be, as opposed to sort of broad swaths of people. I think if you go after a really hyper targeted group, you're going to find greater success there.
Yeah, and I think, and I've seen a couple of comments come in. Curly, you've written, "I'm clueless. I need to find out more." I love the honesty. But basically, I think what David's also trying to solidify is that you don't have to be, doing a studio film to be able to utilize NFTs. Likewise, you don't need to be just an amateur filmmaker that's just starting out. Right across the board, it can put into your business model. And some quick examples, I can, finish that off too, David, I look at the idea of, if you've made a short film and it goes into a film festival for a weekend, and then that's all that happens, you can actually then do NFTs of the deleted scenes, poster of the film. You can do things you couldn't do before with a project, likewise
Absolutely.
with a feature film.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can even back that up and go into the development stage where you're writing the script, and there's, like, even Quentin Tarantino is doing it right now with Pulp Fiction, where he's releasing his original handwritten scripts, and releasing it in chapters. So he's actually, in releasing it by chapters, he's actually creating a bit of a demand and collectability to it for everyone to try and auction to get all of the chapters, or to negotiate after the fact with the other people that won the auction, So there's, like, again, as creative as you can get, you can, devise this campaign that goes from every aspect of your production, potentially, so it can be as large and robust as you want, or as narrow and limited as you think your audience is going to be excited by. But I just think ultimately it provides a new avenue for engagement that has to date previously been, not possible. Like, this is like loyalty rewards points programs on steroids.
Yeah.
This is a chance for you to reward and engage with your most loyal fan base, and for those people to now have a way for them to prove that they are your most loyal fan, as opposed to before just saying, I'm the biggest House of Night fan there is. Like, well, there's actually a way you can almost kind of prove that through the NFT, being like, I've got the most rare NFT, or I paid the most for this, or, there becomes some really interesting avenues for fans, just as bragging points for them as well, to prove that you are the ultimate fan.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that one step closer as well to your fan base that you can connect with. Guys, one more question for David. I'm going to open it up to the floor. Again, we're talking NFTs, primetime panel tomorrow. Moses Breath just mentioned NFTs open many doors for fans. What an awesome new category. Yeah, thanks very much for that. Again, David's Emmy nominated, very, very established film producer as well. So if you want to circle back before he goes, quickly ask him any specific questions about his career, or also what else is happening this year for him. David, I'll throw the question out there for you as well. What's your best piece of advice in 2022 for actors, directors, writers in the industry? What's your best piece of advice?
That's a really super broad, but I'm going to take the assumption that this is for people that are more sort of aspiring, and sort of earlier on in their careers. And so my best piece of advice is the same that I give to anyone that I'm sort of mentoring, which is, this industry is built on years, right? It's not an overnight success. Everyone that you look at as like an overnight success, you can probably actually trace it back to about 10 years of hard work and networking and getting to meet people, and learning and reading scripts and watching as many movies as you can, good and bad, because you learn from all of those experiences. So try and get your foot in anywhere you can. Talk to as many people as you can, because it's through talking that you get exposure to new ideas, to new opportunities. In terms of the NFT space, like, I would, Gary Vee sort of says it best on a podcast I listened to about a month ago, where he's like, just take an hour and go down the rabbit hole of NFTs and learn as much as you can about this. And I would say if you don't own an NFT yet, buy one. Invest in a project where you get an NFT, airdrop to you or something like that, just so you can start to understand what they are, how they function, especially if you're thinking of launching an NFT campaign and you don't have any NFTs or experience with them. Get the experience first so that you can understand what that community's done right or what you think they could have done better so that you can now improve on that when you launch your own NFT campaign.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I really like that. Again, if you don't have an NFT, just buy an NFT. And it's the same thing. Just the more you're aware of something, the better you'll be able to utilize it. And I think, for 2022, my advice would be, people to take that hour, go on and look into NFTs and see how you can invest into your business. Learn the process of the grid. Yeah, absolutely. David, I'm going to say one more time, prime time tomorrow. Panel consists of you. Who else we got?
Yeah, it's NFTs for entertainment, how a smart NFT strategy can drive buzz and revenue. It's got obviously myself on there, but Lyriq Bent, you have Gorav Seth, and you have Mike Consentino, and that's at primetime.ca /prime-time. And it is at 2 p.m. Eastern or 11 a.m. Pacific.
Fantastic. Guys, mogulproductions.com. This has been Mogul Live for this week. We're always happy to have David, and this will not be the last time we get you back on. But David, really excited for the primetime panel tomorrow. Great that you represent Mogul in such a great way. And for all the community fans out there as well, jump on the website anytime, mogulproductions.com. Buy an NFT, just learn about the process, and really excited to bring you more exciting news coming up.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, James. Really appreciate being on here. And thanks,
Always,
everyone.
David. Good luck tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow. Yeah.
See you guys. Bye now.